It's about to take place where truth resonates in the zone. You can't hide from in the zone.
All right. We're starting. You are in the zone today. I'm one of the co-hosts of Mike Brooks. Our main host, Veranda. She's unavailable today. And what we're going to do is start the show off. And the topic today is going to be what we don't know about child custody in the court systems. And our co-host today is me, myself, and also our brother Dwight. Are you in the building?
Yeah, man, I'm here. How's everybody doing? What's going on, Mike?
All right, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it over to you, and you just start us off with everything you know about child custody and things that we don't know.
Right. Okay. Well, I just wanted to. I'm very I won't say well versed because I am not an attorney, but I'm smart enough to read the law, and I've experienced some things, And one of the key things that I've experienced is finding out that what I thought I knew and what others have told me was not how things work when it comes to child custody, child support, family law, fighting in family court, things of that nature, and the things that we think of as parents or as people going through things when it comes to our minor children and other parents when the parents are not in the same household. A lot of those things that a lot of the hearsay that we think we know is not exactly the facts. Uh, for example, in the state of New Jersey, when a child is born, until someone files for custody, it is assumed that child is shared has joint custody between both parents. So until you actually file for custody, do a legal proceeding to actually get it on the record, it is assumed, But one thing that we were always taught in our communities, we're kind of under the assumption that mommy's baby, daddy's maybe, whereas the mother
Yeah,
whereas the mother takes precedence. But the law isn't written that way. The law actually is written that there is no difference between a mother and a father and a man and a woman when it comes to the custody of a child.
that's in the state of New Jersey,
That's
correct?
it's actually it's also in about 32 of the 50 states that's written that way.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. So while we may assume like okay, the mother one side holds the cards over the other, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the law is written so that it is equal. So if no one files, let's say, with the courts in the state of New Jersey, uh, a petition for custody, it is assumed that you have what's considered joint custody. And
Mm-hmm.
joint custody just means that you both are legally responsible for the upbringing of the child.
Got you.
Doesn't mean anything else, doesn't entitle you to anything else. It's just assumed that way. You know,
Got you.
so when people say, "Oh, I'm going to file for joint custody," or "I'm going to do this," basically you're walking into a courtroom where a judge is going to look at you like, that means nothing because it's assumed already in the state of New Jersey that you have joint custody.
Got you.
You know, uh, so one thing that I think a lot of people also misunderstand is that when it comes to custody in the state of New Jersey, on the law in the statute, only two types of custody in the state of New Jersey. It's legal joint custody and sole custody. Those that's
Mm-hmm.
what's in
What's
the
the
statute.
difference?
So the definition of joint custody in the state of New Jersey is where I'll read it off to you. joint custody of a minor child to
Mhm.
both parents, which is comprised of legal custody or physical custody, which shall include provisions for residential arrangements so that the child may reside either solely with one parent or alternatively with each parent in accordance to the needs of the parents and the child. The other part of that is that you must put in place provisions for consultation between both parents in making the major decisions regarding the child's health, education, and general welfare. So
Gotcha.
if we just look at that right there, basically saying when you have joint custody, you have what's automatically assumed. You make the decisions together. You make there's no decisions that can be made without the other parent. Uh, the well-being, the physical custody, you work out. If you guys are not physically together as a couple, you work out
Mhm.
who has a child when. So that's
Gotcha.
automatically assumed. However,
Okay.
uh, sole custody is when one parent with the appropriate parenting time has complete legal and physical custody of the child and controls everything. That has to be filed for. It is not assumed. That has to be brought before the court. So what? So a lot of times we think, oh, the and let's be frank. A lot of times we think the mother has sole custody and the father's just okay, whatever the mother allows.
Mhm.
Doesn't work that way. That
That's what I thought. That's what I
yeah,
thought.
it doesn't work that way. And so New Jersey statutes was last updated in 2019, but in 2009, when President Obama passed the equal gender discrimination bills, that was another help with all the states to where it made sure that everybody, there was no difference between man, woman. You can't, because what happens is if the courts say the mother is better than the father, he at the state level,
Mhm.
he then violates federal law because man can't be greater
Gotcha.
than woman. So
Okay.
so what that brought into play in the state of New Jersey is under the assumptions of custody, they brought in what's called shared custody. And
Mhm.
a lot of people don't understand what shared custody is. Shared custody is when you can say, we are going to share everything physically down the middle, down to the penny, everything. So a lot of times what happens is we get into these courtrooms and uh, we ask for joint custody. You basically just shot your hearing in the foot right then and there, because the judge is going to ask you. They all ask you the same question: what does that look like?
Mhm.
And if you can't show them, because think about it this way: family courts is probably the most crowded courts in all of the land. There's somebody
Okay.
there every day. There's probably these judges hear 30, 40 cases a day. So
Okay.
they don't have time to sit there and hear an argument between a plaintiff and the defendant going at each other, pointing fingers. He did this, she did this, da da da.
Yeah. Yeah.
So their mindset is, how does it look? Show it to me. What does it look like?
Yeah.
If you haven't done your due diligence and you haven't come in there with a written plan that they can put on the record, basically you shoot yourself in the foot, because the judge is like, okay, you guys for joint custody, why don't you have it already? Like, what prevents you from having it? Because it's assumed in the state of New Jersey. So since
It's
we don't
assumed.
know this,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, we coming in asking for the wrong thing.
Mhm.
The other thing is, I always tell people, when it comes to anything, you always, whether it's criminal, whether it's family court, whatever, you don't ever want to be the defendant. Because when you look at the
Gotcha.
definition of defendant, you are defending yourself against an accusation, whatever the
Yeah.
accusation may be. So you always want to be the plaintiff. So even when it comes to family court, if you know that you're not together with your child's other parent, and you want
Mhm.
some rights, you need to be the first person down there to file that case. Because
Gotcha.
as long as you're the plaintiff, they have to answer to your accusations, and it will never change. It will never switch. You will never turn into the defendant. How a
Yeah.
case begins, it must end. So no matter
Gotcha.
how many hearings you have, you can have 75 hearings. You will always be the plaintiff.
Gotcha.
So now you got to think about the optics of that.
Okay.
You come in, and as a man, you come in as the plaintiff. After everybody, the judge, he's coming in as men, they come in as defendants. Now here you come as the plaintiff, you change the optics. You no longer look like, oh, you have to defend yourself. You're there
Yeah.
to present the case. Uh, the other thing that I think a lot of our a lot of our parents do, a lot of parents do, is when they're in these situations or in these cases, what they do is they go in and they don't understand that the law is based around one key factor: the best
What's that?
interest of the child.
The best interest of the child, you say?
Yes,
Got you.
best interest. So let's say hypothetically you have your child's mother is doing something you don't like, and she gets on your nerves, and she's not there when she's supposed to be to drop the child
Mm-hmm.
off, or you
Mm-hmm.
know, all of these type little things.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, well, I'm gonna take you to court. You have to actually be able to define what the best interest is and show how she's not meeting the best interest of the child. Not what she
Got
did,
you.
but how it's affecting the child. Because the courts can't rule
Got you.
on two adults. They don't, it's not about that. They want to know, okay, how does this affect the child? Is it negatively impacting the child? Is it positive? Is it negatively impacting your relationship with the child? That's the other part too, because the law
Okay.
says that you must both have equal rights to have a equal relationship with the child.
Got you.
So if you go in there and you're like, oh well, he did this or she did that, judge is like, listen, I've heard 50 cases already. Get to the point.
Yeah.
You know?
So what you're saying is, so let me ask you real quick. So what you're saying is, it can't be a gripe that I may have with her or she may have with me,
Exactly.
and and I'm bringing it into court on that note. It has to be to whereas I have to show that it's not benefiting the child,
Right.
and it's like detrimental to the child,
Yes.
her whatever she's doing or whatever the case is, and it's also interfering in the child and my relationship. So
Yes.
that's what you're explaining, correct?
Yes. Exactly.
Got you. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
So a lot of times, like I talk to a lot of brothers and they be like, oh man, I'm on child support. And I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, because she took me. So then I ask the question, I ask the key question. I say, well, how much time do you spend with your child? Oh, well, she only lets me get my child this amount of time, or because the mindset is that he holds all the cards, or he holds.
Yeah.
So it's
The
like,
ball
okay,
is always in her court.
exactly. Where I'm
Gotcha.
like, okay, so then I sit down with them and I do what I do with everybody. I pull up the actual statute and I say, this is what it says on child support. Child support is calculated based on one key factor: the amount of parenting time the non-residential parent has with the child. So if you have shared custody, which means you had shared custody means you share the legal and physical responsibility. Why don't you have shared parenting time? So the thing is, then you have to say, okay, if you don't want to pay child support, you have to fight for shared parenting time. Now, shared parenting time is there's 7 days in a week. So that means you want 3.5 days, but it's not counted by the days, it's counted by the overnights. So out of 7 days, there's 6 overnights. So what you want to do is you want to show up to court and you want to have a plan together. I tell people all the time, I say, listen, if you got access to a computer, pull up a calendar template in like Microsoft Word or whatever. Take 6 months of the calendar and color code it overnight. So overnight would be from Monday to Tuesday morning. Tuesday to Wednesday morning. You count your overnights and you split it down the middle. Come up with 2 to 3 plans. If you don't want to go 3 days on, 3 days off, 2 days on, 2 days off, and just rotate like that, come with options. And the reason being, because the judge is going to ask you the key question: what does it look like? So what better way to show a judge what it looks like than to say, here it is. Here's option 1, laid out consecutively. Here's option 2 laid out consecutively. Now when you show up with that, it's color coded. A 5-year-old can understand it. Oh, blue days is daddy days, pink days is mommy days. Or if you're a same-sex couple, and you can say pink days is mommy 2 days, or green days is mommy 2 days. Whatever you want to do, but cut so you split it down. Then you say, okay, finances. What does a child need?
Hold on, Dwight.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I got you.
let me break this. Let's stay right here for a minute. This overnight,
Okay.
because right now I'm like Luke Skywalker, and you like Obi-Wan Kenobi right now. Let's slow this down a little bit.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
let me get this right, because I know people probably asking. Now this overnight, it's
Yeah.
not about the days you could spend, because I need to
overnights.
make sure I got clarity on this.
It's
It's the overnight. So it's from Monday to Tuesday,
Yes.
and then Tuesday to Wednesday, meaning the overnights.
Yes.
Wednesday into Thursday, or whatever the case is. Whatever those days, I can put in, or I can have to, whereas I can have the child with me,
Mm-hmm.
or I can spend time with the child.
Yes.
It's the overnights that I need to focus on. It's not the days.
Right. Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
did I
You need to focus on the
I
overnights.
hit it? Okay, I got it.
And the reason
Okay,
why I'm
focus on the overnights.
let's say so, and see, because you can tailor it to your particular situation. Let's say, for example, the child is of school age and the child is in regular school.
Mm-hmm.
So that means from Monday through Friday, the child's in school, right? So if you say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, I want to rotate every 3 overnights. So let's say parent 1 is
Gotcha.
the child from Monday to Tuesday, that's 1 overnight. Tuesday to Wednesday, that's 2
Yeah.
overnights. Wednesday to Thursday,
Yeah.
3 overnights, right?
Yeah.
Rotate. Now you switch to parent number 2. So what happens is you make it even easier yourself. You say, okay, so on my overnights, we do parenting exchanges on school days at the school.
Wow.
So what you do is you say, okay, so if I had the child Monday to Thursday morning, I drop the child off at school as normal. You pick the child up from school Thursday and bring them back on Sunday.
Wow.
And
so wait a minute. So, huh?
No, go ahead. You got it.
All right. So, okay. So doing something like that, because you were making a point when you brought up the overnights.
Yes.
Would that cut into the child support, the financial part of child support that the father normally would have to give out?
Yes, very much so. It not only will it cut into it, but you have to prove that point. You have to ask for it, especially if it was already awarded prior to this. You have to prove that point. How, if everything is shared down the middle and there is no difference in responsibility, because if the child had extracurricular activities, guess what? That means responsibility, because when you go, let's say if you go 3 on, 3 off, 3 on, 3 off, right? Everybody's going to get a weekend. Everybody's going to get days in a week. So if the child has consistent commitment to extracurricular activities, what happens is everybody's going to have the opportunity to make sure that child makes it there and keeps the, see, what you're doing, you're saying, okay, this can happen without interrupting the child's life. You know, what the child's going on, because guess what? You both got to get them to school. You both got to get them to extracurricular. You know, it's just, if it falls on your day, it falls on your day. That's just how it works. So what happens is you say, why would one parent be giving money to the other parent? That would absolve shared custody. That basically say this is not shared custody. Shared custody means everything down the middle. So all costs incurred with one parent is borne the responsibility of that parent, unless it's something like medical. You know, you can work out, you can work it all the way out to, okay, we have holiday schedules, even year, odd year, birthday schedules, even year, odd year. You know, you can work out to medical bills is split 50-50 down the middle. You know, you both have a job, you both got insurance. Guess what? You work out who's going to be the primary, who's going to be secondary, but the child must carry both insurance. You know,
got you.
So really, what you're saying is, okay, if the child is with me, any cost that's incurred, I handle. Child is with you, any cost that's incurred, you'll handle.
Got you.
Anything major, we're split down the middle.
Got you.
You know, but you
got you. So then that
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, oh, my bad. Damn cameras. Okay. But then what that does is it alleviates the whole giving of money to the other parent, because what is the need?
Got you.
You know, she is not bearing more than the other parent, because you have the same amount of time, same amount of overnights, same amount of meals that you're responsible for, same amount of activities you're responsible for. Everything is there.
Got you.
Now,
got you.
You know, what can kill that is, let's say You say, hey, I don't have the time because of my work schedule. That can kill that.
Mm-hmm.
So then
Okay.
but let's say if the other parent says, I don't have the time because of my work schedule. So now you guys got to come up with something else.
Yeah.
But the key to it all is, what are you willing to sacrifice to make sure that you are consistent and equal presence in that child's life?
Got you. And then all it is, you still have to have a game plan when you
Yeah.
present it. If you go into court, if you go, you have to have all it is,
Right.
in your arsenal. I don't want to say arsenal, but in your game plan when you come to court.
Yeah. You not even so much an arsenal, but write it out. Create diagrams.
Yeah.
Take some time. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you one thing for sure, two things for certain. In the state of New Jersey, you can't get a hearing before a judge and family court in under 45 days.
Okay.
That's how backed up they are. They've been that way for the last 10 years.
Okay.
So reality of it is once you file, you got about a good 30 to 45 day window at least before you get before the judge. So you got time to put your stuff together. Take
stuff
time.
together. Okay.
I have a friend of mine. He was going through a divorce, and they had 4 kids together. And he was so scared about, oh man, she's gonna take for child support, this, that, and the third. I said, listen. I said, I'm gonna give you 2 pieces of advice. I said, you got a credit card? He's like, yeah. I said, how good's your credit? He said, it's pretty decent. I said, apply for a Walmart credit card, right? He was like, why? I said, I'm going to tell you why in a second. Apply. So he applied on the spot. He got approved, $500, right? His kids, I'm like, your kids got everything they need for school already, right? Yeah. I said, okay, so until you get before judge, this is what you're gonna do. Anytime if your wife, your ex-wife, soon-to-be ex-wife has a car, you got a car, okay, cool. She calls you and says the kids need something. Tell her, okay, it's at Walmart. Pick it up in an hour. You take your Walmart credit card and you only use it for them kids. She says, hey, the kids need this, kids need that. Buy it online and do pickup. Put her as a pickup person. Now you have a paper trail of records, so she can't never say you didn't. You're not doing for your kids. And you don't have to see her. You don't have to give her anything. You've basically eliminated the whole I'm going to give you something. Basically, so then he say, well, what happens if when she calls me, she wants to argue? I say, you know what? You got a smartphone. Most smartphones, when you ignore a call, it gives you an option to send a text message, right? I said, go into the settings, and you're going to change those automatic messages to 3 things. Are my kids okay? Is it an emergency? Do they need anything? I said, don't answer any phone calls. When she calls, send a text message. Are the kids okay? If she don't respond to that, send the next one. Is it an emergency? She don't respond to that, send the next one. Do they need anything? Right? I said, now beware. It's gonna piss them off because whatever they calling for to argue or fight with, you just took the rug from up under them. I said, but what you're doing is you're preparing yourself for the paper trail. So when you go to court, you say, okay, listen, I asked because my only responsibility at this point is my kids. Is it an emergency?
Yes.
Are they hurt? Do they need anything? So now you got this paper trail, and you've basically unified your case and said, listen, this is not about me and her. I'm going to keep it on the kids.
Yes.
So now you got that along with your plan in place of how you want it. What can they say? What can they say other than why not? Why should I not grant this party what this party is asking for? Because they clearly presented everything within the confines of the law and said, hey, they're eligible. So they can say, people will make up anything. I mean, I'll tell you, I've seen situations where the other parties would say, oh, well, I don't like what they do around the kids, or they drink beer, or this. They make up stuff. So I've seen cases where a judge may say, well, why didn't you call DCPNP or DIFUS? If you had that much of a concern, why didn't you call the authorities?
Yeah.
But that's a trick question, because then that's a setup. Because if it comes back unfounded, it looks bad upon you. for presenting that to the court. And so the key to it all is to be prepared and not waste the court time. So if you're coming in and saying, hey, this is that, what legal reason can stop me from having it? Basically, because you're not fighting the other parent. I always tell people, forget the other parent. You're fighting the system itself. The system itself is designed to be against, in all honesty, fathers. And the reason why I signed up, because they in New Jersey, in a lot of states, but New Jersey in particular, they give judges what's called judge's discretion. So what happens is, judge's discretion is how the judge see things based on whatever's presented or whatever their opinion is or whatever. So your job is to come with everything as much as possible based on the law, that if that judge makes a decision with their own discretion based on, let's say, their own biases, because they're human beings, you can then appeal that judge's rendering with the chief judge, because you presented legal reasons and the judge gave an opinion that contradicts the law. It takes time. It takes effort, but you have to understand that what your end goal is. Are you going to fight for it, or are you going to give up and say, okay, it didn't work the way I wanted to go the first time out? You got to come back.
You got to come back.
Yeah, you got to come back. I'll tell you my own personal testimony. And when I was fighting for my kids, I'll tell you, there's 3 guards. They rotate in Essex County at sheriff's. They rotate the metal detectors. So, and my case took about 2 years, right? 2 years of fighting. I will tell you honestly, the sheriff's deputies will see me coming like, oh damn, he back again. What you doing? I'm coming in. I got a briefcase. I got a rolling briefcase. I got documents. I'm going through the metal detector. They're like, yo, you sure you're not an attorney? I'm like, listen, the law is public information. It got to the point where judges was passing my case to another judge. They're like, oh man, because we know he coming with some stuff. So I was 7 different judges. 7 different judges, and they're like, okay. And then what you can do is you can ask the judge, say, listen, Your Honor, can you please take the time and go back through the notes from the previous judge?
Okay.
Like I got all day. I'm here. I got an end goal. The problem is people get in there and they get disappointed and they get discouraged and they say, okay, oh, this first hearing didn't go the way I wanted it to go. It ain't that many slam dunks in the world unless the child is in immediate danger. You know what I'm saying? So the whole
That's just the first quarter. Just the first quarter. We got 3 more quarters.
You got 3 more quarters.
This is the first quarter.
Listen.
We got 3 more quarters. Hey, we lost the first quarter, 12-20. We got 3 more quarters to catch up and pass, right?
Exactly. So, so one thing I always tell people to do is just read the law. If you can read and have a general elementary school basic understanding of words, you will understand exactly what the law says. Let me show you something. This is
Yo, and while you looking that up, but you're schooling me on this, man. I'm like I said, I'm Luke Skywalker, you Obi-Wan Kenobi right now. I'm like, I'm into this.
Listen, brother. So I had an attorney, and she only represents men. And this lady said to me, she says, I only represent men because I understand that men are underrepresented when it comes to family law.
Gotcha.
And so she put me through a little, I guess, a trial hearing, just me and her in her office. She said she's going to pay the judge and she's going to ask some questions and she wants me to respond.
Okay.
She says, I'm going to warn you. She's like, I'm not like anybody else. This sister said, I'm not like anybody else, so you might not like my responses.
Got you.
So she asked me one test question. And it's funny because I take her aside, and when I talk to other brothers, I do the same thing. She says, so, Mr. Singleton, do you have a job? So here I go thinking like, yeah, let me give all the information I need to give. Yes, I got a job. I work over here. She said, shut up. She said, you only answer what's been asked of you. So your answer should have just been yes.
Yes. Right? That's it. Just yes.
She's like, she says, if you don't learn anything else, you only answer what's asked. You don't answer.
Yes.
Yeah, just yes.
Just yes. Okay.
Like, don't go into how much money you make. Listen, he or she asks that question. And if it's a simple yes, it's a simple yes. But what she also explained to me, she said, listen, you actually have to know what you want and know if you can receive it before I represent you.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first meeting, she says, okay, I hear what you're telling me. Now go read the law and tell me exactly what you want. So she gave me homework. So what I did was I went and looked it up on Google, then I took me to the state's website for all the
Mm-hmm.
statutes, and all 83 pages of it. I'm reading it every day. And then I sent her an email. I know what I want now. She said, so she set up a time to talk again. We talked again. And she says, what do you want? I said,
Mm-hmm.
I want section 9:2-4, subsection B. She's like, oh, you want shared custody? I said, yeah, I want shared custody. She said,
Mm-hmm.
do you think you can get it? I said, the law says I'm entitled to it. She said, now I can represent you.
Got you.
She said,
Got you.
why would you hire a lawyer to fight for you and you don't know exactly what you're fighting for? So the whole thing is what it did was it empowered me
Got you.
to start digging more. And I started learning more. So I would send an email, hey, I learned about this. I learned about this. She only represented me
Yeah. Yeah.
She represented me one hearing. And she said, you can take it from here. Because I learned so much
Got you.
about, she said, forget everything you think you know. And let me tell you what you really know. What it really
Got
is.
you.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, brother. But I wanted to just go over this quick. It just basically says, this is what the law says. The court shall also order any arrangement which is agreed upon by both parents unless it is contrary to the best interest of the child. So let's say you come up with an arrangement. You come up with an arrangement with the other parent. You say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I want to do 1 week on, 1 week off.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you have that in writing. Make sure you have a recording. And make sure that it's not in the sense where you don't have a record of it. Don't worry about recording another person.
Okay.
New Jersey is one of 7 states that is one party consent, which means as long as you are part of the conversation, you can record any conversation in the world. I don't care if you cough.
Okay.
If you walk up to somebody, you cough and you hit record. Guess what? That's your cough on that record. You can record it. So always make sure you have some, because what happens is you can go in there and say, well, we agreed to one week on, so alternate 7 days at a time, and the other party can come in and say, no, I didn't. How do you prove it?
Mm-hmm.
You can't prove it. However, being that there's one party consent, as long as you're a party to the conversation, you can record it all. So now they have to argue against themselves. They have to fight against themselves because they already agreed to it.
Got you. Got you.
So I mean, there's so many ways we can actually, you can tackle this, and I even tell women this as well. I'm like, I had a sister I grew up with. We were. She asked us for some advice on it. I said, listen, what actually are you fighting against? Oh, I can't stand him. I said, sis, let me give you some advice. What do your kids think about him? She's like, what do you mean? It shouldn't matter. I said, listen, that's the only thing that matters.
It's the only thing that matters.
He's
a superhero to them.
Right. And if I said, so therefore, you not being able to stand him, you're willing to sacrifice your kids' well-being for him. I said, and guess what? Mm-hmm. If you came in there with the most novice attorneys fresh out of law school, guess what? They're gonna see right through it and they're gonna eat you alive. I said, so the reality of it is this. If you could put your bitterness between you and this other parent aside, and that I tell brothers too, put your issues with the other parent aside. Put it to the side and say, hey, this child needs both of us. The law says the child should have both of us. This is what it looks like. Here's 3 different versions. I say, I tell brothers, I say, come up with 3 different plans. You got 7 days in a week, 6 overnights total. How many different variations? We had math in school. Come up with how many different variations you can split 6 in half. 2 days, 2 overnights, 2 overnights, 3 overnights, 3 overnights. 4 overnights, 3 overnights, and then flip it around and do 3 overnights, 4 overnights, so it's all even. You get what I'm saying? Alternate your holidays. If you got birthdays on the even year, I get birthdays on the odd year. You got Christmas on the even year, I get Christmas Eve on the even year. And it's flip-flop. So there's equity on both ends. There's no difference.
Got you.
You can even throw in there, hey, I want to do summer vacations. Okay, well, guess what? During the summer vacation, as long as you give 60-day notice, 60-day notice to other
Mm-hmm.
parent, you can do 7 days at a time.
Boom.
So now you got
Boom.
time to plan with your job. You get to plan. You know when it's coming. So you got time to plan. So
All right, great.
basically, you want to take away every objection before the objection is even presented.
Presented.
So
Okay.
when the judge is looking at it, the judge says, okay, why shouldn't I grant this?
Exactly. Exactly. So now to wrap this up. Now, you want to focus on. We're gonna do a recall.
Yeah,
Make sure I got this.
yeah.
If I got it, everybody got it.
Right.
Because I'm like a 72 Chevy. You pop that hood on a 72 Chevy, and you look at the engine, you like, I don't know about mechanics, but it looked like I can figure this out.
Right.
So what you're saying is, okay, come with a game plan.
Yes.
Make sure you focus on spending time with the child. It's not days, but it's overnights.
Yes.
Also making sure that if the other parent, their lifestyle is detrimental to the child, not you don't like the lifestyle,
right?
You don't like that, but you got to prove that the lifestyle that the other parent is having is detrimental to the child.
Right.
You got to focus on that.
Right.
It's all about the child.
All about the child.
In most states, but definitely in New Jersey is what you're saying.
Yes, best interest of the child is the number one factor when it comes to child custody.
Okay. And this is the biggest misconception, is what you just taught me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, is that the woman, because I always thought that the mother, carries the most weight when it comes to family court, at least in New Jersey.
Right. It don't even work that way.
It's not. That's a myth. At least in New Jersey, that's a myth.
That's a huge myth, because the reality of it is there's no difference between a man and a woman.
Man, because it's already assumed that they have shared custody. I apologize, in the courts. They have joint custody.
Yes,
it's already assumed that they have joint custody.
Because the child is born. When the child is born, they don't say, okay, this is the mother's child, this is not the father's child. No. It's assumed like, okay, y'all already worked this out, because the law is written to say, okay, you guys are responsible parents. You already worked it out. But what they don't understand is, in our communities, we like, I don't like this person. This person, I don't like this person, and I gotta deal with this person the rest of my life. Yeah, yes, but at the same time, token, there's, as my father would say, for everything there's a rule book. And if you don't know the rule book, and you just operating on what you thought, you're operating outside the rules, and you're gonna always lose the game.
Okay, great. So the thing is, we're gonna wrap this up now.
Yeah, man.
Brother Dwight just shared like a whole host of stories again, with especially with this topic. Again, I'm Luke Skywalker. You're my Obi-Wan Kenobi in this. Y'all should have been listening. All the information he shared, a whole lot of information that he shared before the show.
Right.
But he still didn't touch on some of the information that he was sharing prior to us coming on board. However, the mother, the father, hopefully, everyone got something out of this,
right.
And, take it with you, because the main thing is the child. It's not me as the father or you as the mother or how we feel about each other. It's about the child. Basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, if I could just leave our listeners with one thing, it takes two people to make a child.
Mm-hmm.
It takes two people to raise a child.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be those same two people that will destroy that child, because they won't get over the issues with each other, and that child is stuck in the middle, destroyed. So before you approach anything when it comes to this, think about your child. Think about, so you never go into these situations, hey, I want to take this child away from the other parent. You go into situations and say, hey, the child needs us both. How do we do
that? On that note, we're gonna close out. Brother Dwight,
Brother Mike,
thank you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
And with me, it's a pleasure. Our sister, our family, Veranda.
Yeah, Lady B.
We got you. We holding you down.
Yes.
You the captain of the ship. And we just doing our part.
Right, right. She David Ruff and We the Temptations.
Bam. Gladys Knight and we the Pips.
Facts.
Uh-huh. Leave it.
It's time to awake. There'll be no escape. You can't hide what's about to